They tell you the world is broken, that it's falling apart, that chaos, inequality, corruption, and confusion are just unfortunate byproducts of a flawed system, a system that needs fixing. That all we need is the right leader, the right law, the right tweak, and everything will be okay. But that's a lie. The world isn't broken. It was built this way, deliberately, strategically, systematically. You think injustice is an error? It's not. It's design. You think poverty is an unfortunate side effect? It's a feature. The chaos isn't accidental, it's architecture. And the longer you believe that things are falling apart, the longer you'll miss the truth. Things are functioning exactly as intended. Just not for you. For them, for the architects. For those who sit behind the curtains, pulling levers of influence while you watch the theater unfold on stage. This world was never designed to be fair. It was designed to keep you chasing fairness. It was never designed for equality. It was designed for control, for hierarchy, for layers of power that are nearly invisible, but inescapably real. You think systems collapse? Number the systems evolve. They shift, they adapt, but always around one central principle. Keep the powerful, powerful. Let the rest play musical chairs with hope and distraction. You were taught to think that merit brings reward. Work hard, be good, wait your turn. But in reality, merit is a currency only accepted at the bottom. Up there, in the upper rooms of influence, the currency is something else entirely. Proximity, lineage, leverage, and control of perception. And they're not broken. They're thriving. They don't fix the system because it's not broken for them. They don't dismantle what feeds them. They give you hope, just enough to keep you calm. They hand you narratives, just convincing enough to keep you obedient. They give you distractions, endless ones, so you never look up long enough to realize the game isn't fair because it was never meant to be. This is not pessimism. This is clarity. Because the moment you realize the world isn't broken, it's built, is the moment you stop trying to repair a machine that was engineered to grind you down. And you start asking the real question, what will you build instead? Look around. Why do food prices soar when there's no shortage? Why do people work 2 jobs and still live in debt? Why do elections feel like choices, but the outcomes always taste the same? Why do wars start when profit margins shrink? Why do industries collapse, only for the same billionaires to rise from the ashes, richer? Because collapse is theater. Because chaos is profitable. Because confusion is power. They don't want peace. They want compliance. They don't need you stable. They need you dependent. A calm population asks questions. A desperate one obeys. That's why your rent rises, but your pay doesn't. That's why your health is commodified. That's why your education teaches you what to think, not how to think. They didn't forget to fix these things. They designed them this way. Because a tired, overworked, over-medicated, overstimulated citizen is too distracted to revolt, too exhausted to rebel, too buried in survival to notice the strings. That's the real magic trick. It's not about hiding power. It's about overwhelming you with just enough struggle that you forget to even look for it. They hand you bills, deadlines, obligations, a treadmill so loud you can't hear your own voice anymore. When you finally pause, they whisper, "Don't worry, vote, pray, hope, obey. But obedience has never been the way out. Obedience is how they keep the lights on in their empire. It's how they harvest your time, your energy, your creativity to fuel a machine that was never built with you in mind. You were taught to play by the rules, but no one told you. The rules were written to serve the rule makers. Every law is a boundary, but only for those too afraid to test it. Every regulation is a leash, unless you're the one writing it. You think morality governs the powerful? Power justifies itself. It rewrites morality. When they do it, it's strategy. When you do it, it's crime. When they bomb, it's peacekeeping. When you protest, it's disorder. This is not hypocrisy, it's hierarchy. And they count on you never noticing, because the illusion must hold. The illusion that the system is just a little broken, that with enough petitions, protests, and patience, it will heal. But they don't fear your patience. They fear your clarity, your awakening, your moment of pause when you stop blaming yourself and start seeing the architecture of control that has always surrounded you. That's when the game changes. When you realize the world wasn't designed for you, and that maybe it's time you stop trying to win in someone else's arena. Start building your own. The most dangerous man is not the violent one. It's the one who stops believing the myth, the man who no longer waits for permission, the one who doesn't pray for a seat at the table, but builds his own, and flips theirs on the way out. You see it, don't you? Every time someone steps out of line, really out of line, the system reacts. Not because of what they did, but because they reminded others they could. Because rebellion is contagious, and clarity is lethal. So what do? They call you mad. They call you extreme. They call you dangerous. But they never call you wrong. Because deep down, they know. If more people saw the scaffolding of lies, the entire structure would collapse. That's why they silence the clear ones. That's why they smear the fearless. Because truth is radioactive in a world built on illusions. And you were never meant to be clear. You were meant to stay confused, polite, obedient. But something in you is waking up. Something restless, something ancient. A knowing that none of this is coincidence. That your exhaustion is engineered. That your poverty is profitable. That your silence is purchased through guilt, through shame, through fear. And it no longer works on you. Not like it used to. You've started asking the forbidden questions. You've started walking without their map. You've begun to see the machine, and you've stopped feeding it. That is power. Because power doesn't begin with revolution. It begins with realization. When you see the invisible bars, when you touch the ghost chains, when you understand that the world isn't broken, it's performing. You were not born to play a role in their script. You were born to write your own. You were born to disrupt, to redesign, to challenge. Not with rage, but with reality. You don't need their approval. You don't need their blueprint. You need vision. You need conviction. And you need to remember. Every empire falls. Not because it breaks, but because enough people realize it was never whole to begin with. The cracks are showing, not just in politics, in media, in religion, in money, in meaning. And with every lie exposed, with every truth unearthed, you become more ungovernable, more unpredictable, more free. And freedom, true freedom, it terrifies them. Because a free man cannot be manipulated. A free man cannot be recruited into a system that thrives on compliance. A free man is not a cog. He is a catalyst. You are that catalyst. Not because you have all the answers, Maimon, but because you stopped swallowing the lies. That's where it begins. In the pause, in the refusal, in the whispered no more. So let the world call you difficult. Let them call you rebellious. Let them call you broken. They don't understand. You're not broken. You're finally seeing clearly. And that clarity is the beginning of power.